Good evening, I'm Stephanie Seacos. It's Friday, August 7th. This is CTV News at 6. Tonight, relief at the pumps. What's behind the latest drop in gas prices across the Maritimes? Plus, sudden closure. Why a community center in New Brunswick has been forced to shut its doors.
Very muggy through the weekend with more relief for both temperature and humidity next week.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Stephanie Seacos.
Thanks for joining us. Todd Battis is off tonight. Many times over the past several months, we've told you about skyrocketing gas price hikes. This week, though, it's a different story. Prices went down a few times this week in all three maritime provinces, including another 10-cent drop in gas and diesel for Nova Scotia last night alone. CTV's Jonathan McGinnis spoke with maritime drivers who are pleased with this current trend.
There was a change at the pumps overnight, and people are noticing.
Gas price is going down. Yesterday was $1.80, but today is $1.70. It's going down. Hopefully it goes down more.
Today's 9.7 cent a litre decrease comes after the Nova Scotia Energy Board used the interrupter clause on Wednesday to drop prices by 10.4 cents a litre. Petroleum analyst Patrick DeHaan says the price reductions are a result of U.S. President Donald Trump teasing a possible ceasefire with Iran that would reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
That caused the price of oil to plummet Monday, Tuesday, and into Wednesday, which opened the door for a big decline in gas prices coast to coast.
Prices in New Brunswick are also down by 5.8 cents and 3.5 cents on PEI. That may be short-lived. A looming issue here in the Maritimes could force prices higher late this summer.
The Irving Oil Refinery in St. John is going to be undergoing maintenance in about a month and a half. That's going to last 2 months. And that likely could have major consequences, pushing prices up.
I've seen gas go from $5 a day to $50 a day.
Al Delorier has been a cab driver since 1965. He says prices are still too high. He'd like to see the government decrease the gas tax for taxi drivers to help them with the cost of a fill-up.
I just go get gas, and I don't even know when I paid it. I just pay the amount. I never, ever look at the cost because I have to do it anyway.
Same with New Brunswick resident Kevin White, who is on a summer vacation throughout the Maritimes.
It doesn't really matter if you're out taking a drive and you're on a holiday or a trip. Regardless, you're starting to get low on fuel, you got to drop in and get some fuel.
Still, a couple dollars left after a fill-up is welcome. And Stephanie, as for where gas prices could be going after today, Patrick DeHaan says with so many factors involved, it's really kind of hard to predict. He says we should just enjoy the lower gas prices while we have them. Stephanie.
Thanks, Jonathan. CTV's Jonathan McGinnis reporting in Halifax this evening. The sudden death of a 34-year-old man on Prince Edward Island is being investigated by police. According to RCMP, officers were called late Wednesday night to Georgetown, where a man was allegedly acting erratically. Police say he then lost consciousness. Emergency crews tried to resuscitate him, but he was eventually pronounced dead at the scene. Few details are available, but police say his cause of death is under investigation. As pretty much all of the Maritimes remained under a heat warning today, some extra care is being taken to protect some of the most vulnerable. For others whose jobs mean being out in the hottest conditions, that can come with a risk. Here's CTV's Ryan McDonald.
As the hot August sun bore down again today, the shade was where these residents of Maple Hill Manor in New Waterford were beating the heat.
I don't like it.
Why?
Too hot.
It's wonderful.
Others at the long-term care facility were taking refuge from this heat wave by sitting inside next to a big fan.
Bus outings, we do afternoon and evening drives to get ice cream, cool off a little bit more.
With today's temperatures well into the high 20s in Cape Breton, not factoring in the humidex, those taking care of some of the most vulnerable are taking precautions.
We have an amazing nursing team with CCAs and nurses, and we make them aware of different things that we notice, and we make sure that residents drink a lot of fluids throughout the day and make sure we reapply that sunscreen when they're in the sun.
It's warm, but I'm trying to survive, you know.
That's the reality for a lot of people whose jobs are outdoors. The Workers' Compensation Board of Nova Scotia says that since 2015, just over 200 people have needed medical attention or lost time from work due to heat-related injuries or conditions, and that a quarter of those claims, 50 of them, are from last year and the year before as our summers have gotten hotter.
I don't mind the heat from the sun, but the heat from the grill, that's the worst part of my job.
You get both.
Yeah.
In parts of New Brunswick, things may have been even warmer, with today's high in Fredericton coming in at above 30 degrees. Back at the nursing home in New Waterford, where being next to the ocean cooled things down at least a bit, there was one more way the seniors here were staying cool.
We will be having popsicles later on.
Indeed they did. A frozen treat for everyone, and at least one more day of these warmer than normal temperatures expected tomorrow. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, New Waterford, Nova Scotia.
There's a live look at the Confederation Bridge this evening, where it's 29 degrees right now. Let's get our first look at the weather, and for that we go to CTV meteorologist Kaylin Mitchell. Certainly popsicles were a good idea today.
I have some in the freezer. It is the first thing I'm doing when I get home this evening.
Yes.
I am going to have a popsicle for sure. Yeah, heat warnings continue for all three maritime provinces. Now the heat impacts everyone differently, and for some people they enjoy this sort of peak summertime heat and humidity we get here in the Maritimes. Other people it's tougher to get through, especially when it is in an extended stretch like this. So the heat warnings were updated this afternoon by Environment Canada. Basically they're saying that even though the temperatures may come down a degree or two on the weekend, because of the high level of humidity in the air, the humidity values are still going to remain quite high for both Saturday and Sunday, in many cases making it feel between 34 and 38. So there's a good chance these heat warnings remain in place for a good portion of the Maritimes moving into and even through most of the weekend. As we take a look at temperatures right now around the region, if you're headed out this evening, you're headed out into temperatures that are mostly sitting in the high 20s and low 30s. As far as the hottest spot in the Maritimes at Environment Canada monitored weather stations, so far for today, that it was at Gagetown in New Brunswick, 35.9 degrees. So basically at 36, and so far that's been the hottest spot in the country so far. Humidex values are making it feel up into the mid to high 30s, and occasionally for some areas right around 40. And that once again is because of the high level of humidity. Dew point temperatures high teens, low 20s. When combined with heat, that's a level here in the Maritimes that we typically find to be a little bit stifling. Taking a look at the cloud outlook for tonight. A few more clouds around than the past couple of nights, especially around western areas of New Brunswick. And fog will be a little bit more widespread for the region tonight, mainly for coastal areas, but also some patchy fog possible inland. It has been a great stretch of nights, though, this week for some night sky viewing, and tonight's still a pretty good one. It's a waning crescent moon, 30% illuminated. It won't be above the eastern horizon, though, until after midnight. You can spot the planet Saturn just above the eastern horizon right around midnight, and if you spot a shooting star, that's likely part of the Perseids meteor shower, which will be approaching its peak on August 12th to 13th. Speaking of clear night sky, Stephanie, our viewer picture coming up at the end of the program for tonight is a fantastic one of that clear night sky, and of course I'll have that later on.
All right, can't wait to see that, and we will see you for the full forecast in about 15 minutes. Over the past few years, the Upper River Valley Hospital in Waterville, New Brunswick has had to routinely suspend its labor and delivery services due to staff shortages. Officials hope that the hiring of 2 new surgeons will help address the issue. CTV's Avery McRae is in our St. John. Avery, what do these new hires mean?
Well, Stephanie, what it means is that for the first time in a decade, all 3 general surgery positions at Horizon's Upper River Valley Hospital are filled, which is expected to help more than just new mothers in western New Brunswick. Both of the new hires will be undergoing training to perform C-sections, which will give the hospital greater capacity to support labor and birth services for women in that part of the province. This year alone, delivery services had been suspended numerous times because of staffing shortages. When those services are suspended, pregnant women have no choice but to travel the extra hour to the Dr. Everett Chalmers Regional Hospital in Fredericton. In at least one instance earlier this year, that led to 1 baby being born on the side of the highway. In a statement to CTV, New Brunswick Medical Society President Dr. Carl Boucher says the new hires are a win for patients, providers, and the entire healthcare system. It reads in part, These new surgeons will help patients receive care closer to home, increase surgical capacity across the province by reducing pressure on the Dr. Everett Chalmers Regional Hospital in Fredericton, and provide greater stability for physicians, nurses, and hospital staff in the region. CTV asked for an interview from the Health Network, but no one was made available. Horizon says they are actively recruiting to add more staff to the Upper River Valley Hospital to further improve birth and labor services. Positions currently being targeted include an anesthesia and operating room trained professionals. Ava McRae, CTV News, St. John.
Tougher rules for the roads in Nova Scotia will be rolling out this fall. The new safety regulations are aimed at protecting cyclists and other vulnerable road users, and they include new age restrictions for e-bikes. CTV's Jesse Thomas has more.
As more people are turning to using e-bikes and other forms of active transportation, the province is introducing the Transportation Safety Act in the fall that'll see several changes and new rules for the road. Among the changes is a requirement for all riders of e-bikes to be at least 14 years old, which matches the age requirement for e-scooters.
It's the speed that they can actually travel. They can go up to 30, 32 kilometers an hour and more. So you start to get into a different level of conveyance than a traditional bicycle.
This e-bike rider says the age restrictions make sense. He regularly sees young children doing dangerous things on busy roads.
I watch them go up and down the street here at 30 kilometers an hour, and it's dangerous. Some of them are not wearing helmets, and it's too fast.
The legislation will also make dooring a new offense. The minister says a big fine will come for anyone who opens a vehicle door into the path of an oncoming cyclist or any other road user. That's something that the cycling advocates here in Halifax have been calling on for years.
So this is something that I feel like we absolutely should have been dealing with a long time ago.
Dalhousie professor Dr. Nouman Ali was killed last month on a Halifax road when a driver of a pickup truck opened his door in Ali's path. Sarah Kirk, who is also a Dalhousie professor, knew Dr. Ali and says his death and others caused by large vehicles like trucks and SUVs should be followed by a fatality inquiry conducted by the province's medical examiner.
That these much larger vehicles are ubiquitous on our streets right now, and they do carry greater risks for anybody who's outside of them.
The new Transportation Safety Act will be released in the fall and will clarify that children under the age of 14 can ride non-electric bikes and scooters on the sidewalk. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
On our website tonight, Nova Scotia's premier is meeting with New England governors this weekend, but New Brunswick's premier is staying home. For more on that story, visit ctvnewsatlantic.ca. People living in St. John will have to wait a few more weeks before lane closures on and around the Harbor Bridge will be removed for drivers. The lane closures were supposed to be completed at the start of this week, but the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure says those lane reductions will remain in place until September 4th. It says the current work entails curb and gutter replacements, which is more work than initially anticipated. Bridge refurbishing began in 2021 and was supposed to be finished this year. It's not clear when work will finally be completed on the 58-year-old bridge. A community center in southern New Brunswick is closing suddenly due to a shortfall in funding. As CTV's Derek Haggett reports, the staff and its members are devastated.
The head of the Nutrien Civic Center in Sussex has announced the facility will close Saturday because they can't make payroll.
Nobody wants to see this facility close. The value that it provides to members and the public at large is immeasurable.
4 communities, including Sussex, are mandated to provide about half of the funding needed to keep the center running, the other half through membership fees and swimming lessons. Last month's funding fell well short.
We planned to have our quarterly payment delivered in July, and that didn't happen, and here we are.
It's a sad day for Sussex. It needs to stay open.
It's devastating to me because I have Parkinson's, and my neurologist told me the very best thing I can do is walk for half an hour, 5 times a week.
The town of Sussex says regional partners Butternut Valley and Valley Waters haven't met their financial commitments for recreational services.
We knew, unfortunately, where that road would lead if intervention wasn't undertaken by the province. And unfortunately, we're seeing now just exactly where that road has led, with the pending closure of the centre this weekend.
In a statement to CTV News, however, the mayor of Butternut Valley disputes this. We are not in arrears with regards to the NCC. We are not in the position to comment on what other municipalities are doing or not doing, nor do we think anyone from other municipalities should be disparaging other municipalities in a blame game. The mayor of Valley Waters says the centre has run significant losses for years. However difficult it is for those directly affected, the board's decision to close is, in our respectful view, the correct and reasonable course. McFarland feels for her staff and the members who come every day. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Sussex.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
The tourism season is in full swing region-wide. In Fredericton, the city is expecting a boost this weekend as thousands of people are set to come out for a local car show. Despite tourism uncertainties, the city's tourism manager says the sector is holding strong. CTV's Anna Manton has more.
Officer Square in Fredericton is busy, full of organizers and car owners preparing for local car exhibition Fred Rudd Show and Shine.
More than a car show, it's like a car-themed festival.
Already, 450 people have registered to bring cars, and Vokey is prepared for a lot more attendees.
We've had turnouts usually around between 10 and 15,000 people over the weekend. So we're looking this year for some growth.
And it's not just car shows. Fredericton's tourism manager says tourism numbers so far this year are on par with last year, despite higher gas prices.
We were hesitant about how this season was going to go. However, we are seeing that we're seeing visitors.
She says the city's tourism season is year-long. Conferences, conventions, and sport tournaments play a big role, but so do large events like Fred Rod.
They are very welcome, and we love being able to see it. It adds to that vibrancy, the economic impact, and that vibe in the downtown.
And across the street from the car show, the manager at Nomad Coffee says big functions like Fred Rod also boost sales.
Tourism is a big bump for business. We definitely saw it happen as soon as the weather got nice out. We got a big bump in business, and a lot of the events downtown actually bumped the business up as well.
Many are coming to Fredericton from out of province. Russell says the city targets places like New England, Ontario, and Quebec, and they are coming. While Vokey says 1/4 of all registered cars are attending Fred Rod from outside of Fredericton.
So they're coming from all over because the show really quickly gained a reputation of just being a fun event.
Marking an optimistic first half of the city's tourism year. Anna Manton, CTV News, Fredericton.
Still to come, humid, muggy weather for the weekend. Kalen will return with his full forecast. But next, Facebook takes a big loss in court.
The judge has ordered Meta to pay hundreds of millions of dollars, saying that some of its apps helped fuel the youth mental health crisis in New Mexico. I'm Armando Garcia. Why some people are calling this a landmark ruling, coming up.
This is the Campfire Conditions Report brought to you by Pine Acres RV, where customers become friends. Not a lot of change in the region from yesterday. In New Brunswick, if you're in the counties of Restigouche, Madawaska, Victoria, or St. John, you are allowed to have a campfire between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. For the remainder of New Brunswick, campfires are currently not allowed. For the province of Nova Scotia, most counties can have a campfire between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. However, no campfires are currently permitted through Guysborough County or in Antigonish County. And for the province of Prince Edward Island, campfires are currently allowed with domestic brush burning permitted between the hours of 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. It's important to check in on any municipal restrictions and bylaws as well before having a campfire.
Welcome back. Now to a landmark ruling south of the border that could affect how social media works. A judge has ordered Meta to pay hundreds of millions of dollars, saying the design of Facebook and Instagram helped fuel the youth mental health crisis in the state of New Mexico. ABC's Armando Garcia has those details.
New Mexico's Attorney General is touting a landmark ruling after a judge ordered Facebook and Instagram parent company Meta to pay the state $567 million for mental health treatment and prevention programs for young people.
Really changing the narrative in this country and frankly all over the world about whether or not companies of this size and scale can actually be held accountable.
According to the ruling filed in court Thursday, the judge found Meta intentionally used features such as endless scrolling, autoplay, and content recommendations to keep teenagers on its platforms longer. The judge said those features contributed to high rates of depression, anxiety, and self-harm among young people. Meta's penalties now reaching nearly $1 billion after a jury in March determined the company should pay a $365 million fine. During the trial, state prosecutors accused the company of knowing some of the features on its apps could lead to addiction and child exploitation and ignored the dangers.
They knew about these harms, that they were not forthcoming about the danger, and so now they must pay the price for the choice that they made to put profits over children's safety.
Meta now vowing to appeal the decision, saying, quote, "We work hard to keep people safe on our platforms and have been transparent about the challenges of identifying and removing bad actors and harmful content. We remain confident in our record of protecting teens online." Under this order, that more than $500 million will go into an abatement fund and includes money for screenings, referrals, treatment, and other services. Armando Garcia, ABC News, New York.
Still to come, a change is coming for the weekend weather. A chance of showers and thunderstorms ahead. Kaylin will have those details next. Nothing but sunshine and warm temperatures over Inverness County this afternoon as we soar over Port Hood Island. Absolutely stunning shot there.
I mean, even around coastal areas for today, it was very hot and humid because the winds were so light. We didn't really have a strong, steady breeze for, large areas where it was coming in directly off of ocean waters to help moderate temperatures around the coast. And humid conditions are going to continue for the weekend. The temperatures may come down a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about how we got into this weather setup and why it matters for the weekend forecast. So here's a look at some high temperatures reported around the Maritimes for today, and you can see that many locations did get up into the 30s, some approaching 34 degrees. There was even a weather station at Gagetown in New Brunswick. It's not on this weather map that peaked at 35.9 degrees, so nearly 36. And I did receive some personal weather station reports as well, right around that level. And we're sharing this heat with basically the entire eastern seaboard of North America. You can see our temperatures are very similar to those down in Florida and the Carolinas, moving up past New York and Boston. And not only are we sharing in a similar type of heat, but we're sharing in a similar type of humidity as well when it comes to the dew point temperatures. We're not quite as muggy as they are, say, in New York, where the dew point right now is around 24. It would be feeling downright swampy there today, or in parts of Florida. But we're not that far off with some dew points in the Maritimes today, high teens, low 20s. And the reason why this has developed is around the Bermuda High, we've basically seen a circulation of very warm, very humid air come up all the way from the subtropical Atlantic and work its way all the way up the eastern seaboard, including here into the Maritimes. Newfoundland and Labrador didn't quite get into it. There are parts of Newfoundland that are much cooler. Taking a look at our forecast timeline for cloud cover and precipitation then, with that muggy air in place for tonight, there's going to be some fog patches around, especially around some coastal areas. And then for tomorrow, with that higher level of humidity and a little trough of low pressure beginning to move in, there's a bit more instability in the atmosphere around the Maritimes. That instability is going to lead to a higher chance of some pop-up showers and thunderstorms. And as we make our way into and through Saturday afternoon, the first areas that could get into some of these isolated showers and thunderstorms will be western and southern areas of New Brunswick, as well as the west of mainland Nova Scotia. Now, late into the afternoon and the start of the evening, some of those showers and thunderstorms could drift towards the east, across eastern areas of New Brunswick, towards Prince Edward Island, and eastern areas of Nova Scotia. So the risk of thunderstorms on Saturday is across a good portion of the Maritimes. Even those areas I don't have highlighted, there is still a chance because of this very humid, buoyant air in place. And then coming up on Sunday, Likewise, because it's so humid, there's still a general risk of a thunderstorm, but on Sunday it looks like it'd be a little bit more likely through northern western areas of New Brunswick and parts of the east of Nova Scotia, especially during the morning hours for the east of Nova Scotia. Because of that high level of humidity, along with lightning, which is dangerous at any time, any of those thunderstorms could develop downpours and produce quite a bit of rain in a short period of time. So those are the type of hazards we'll have to keep an eye out for that thunderstorm activity. Winds in the forecast for tomorrow for the Maritimes, mostly out of the south and on the lighter side, sustained winds 10 to 20 kilometers per hour. It's a very warm and muggy night across the region. Most of the lows will be in the range around 15 to 20 degrees, but feeling well into the 20s basically all night long. High temperatures for tomorrow in northern areas of New Brunswick come down a few degrees compared to the last couple of days, but the humidex values will still make it feel into the mid to high 30s. And same thing goes for central and southern areas of New Brunswick. It basically is only cooling off a little bit for tomorrow because of some increased cloudiness and that chance of a shower or thunderstorm. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow, high temperatures about 25 to 28 degrees, but humidex values making it feel well into the 30s. Late in the day, that's when you have your chance of a shower or thunderstorm for Prince Edward Island. And same thing goes for eastern areas of Nova Scotia. It's mostly a late day risk. Lots of high temperatures, though, mid to high 20s, and still some, especially towards the interior of Cape Breton, likely to be in the low 30s. 27 for Amherst, 29 for Truro, Halifax, Dartmouth for tomorrow. High temperatures near 28 degrees, but humidex still making it feel into the 30s. You'll have that chance of a shower or thunderstorm basically beginning in the afternoon. And in the southwest of Nova Scotia for tomorrow, high temperatures, mostly mid to high 20s. Humidex values making it feel into the 30s. Chance of a shower, risk of a thunderstorm. Taking a look at the forecast over the next several days. So Sunday's conditions for the Maritimes look very similar to Saturday. Monday for New Brunswick is going to be a mix of sun and cloud and very warm. There's a chance of showers on Tuesday, and then by the middle part of next week, it looks like both temperature and humidity levels will be back down towards average for that far or this far into the month of August. Taking a look at the 7-day forecast for Nova Scotia, a little bit unsettled on the weekend with that high level of humidity, basically giving each day a chance of a shower, risk of a thunderstorm. And then Monday, a mix of sun and cloud, chance of showers on Tuesday. Wednesday, a mix of sun and cloud, chance of showers on Thursday of next week. Again, by the middle of next week, about average levels for both temperature and humidity. And for Prince Edward Island in the forecast, unsettled this weekend, chance of a shower, thunderstorm both days, mix of sun and cloud on Monday. Chance of showers on Tuesday of next week. Should be more comfortable temperature and humidity levels by Wednesday, and there'll be a chance of showers after that on Thursday. Stephanie.
Thanks, Kaylin. We'll check in with you a little bit later for that wake-up weather. But next, we'll talk about summer party support. Pollster Nick Nanos will join us to discuss the latest numbers and where Canadians are leaning. That's it in Friday Politics. Stay with us.
Okay, so have a great weekend and join us Monday. We're giving away that grand prize for a 1-year free membership to Anytime Fitness.
As well, around 7:30, we will have a chance to win a gift card to Shoppers Drug Mart. Good luck.
It's midsummer and the barbecue circuit is in full swing for Canadian politicians. While many Canadians may not necessarily be thinking about politics in August, there are a few stories making the rounds. To talk about those, we are joined by pollster Nick Nanos of Nanos Research. Thanks for chatting with us, Nick.
Great to see you, Stephanie.
First, let's talk about another Conservative member of Parliament, Larry Brock, who has announced he'll resign next month. What do you make of this?
Well, you know, I think Larry Brock makes it, I think, Stephanie, number 7, the 7th MP, Conservative MP, to leave the caucus or resign since Pierre Poilievre, since the last election. And, you know, the thing is that riding, Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations, last election, it was really good for the Conservatives. I think it was like 52-41 or something like that, so about 11-point advantage. In the latest Nanos modeling, the Conservatives still have the advantage, but it's not as big as it was. And maybe that's because the Conservatives are not doing as well right now compared to the last federal election where they had about 4 out of every 10 Canadians vote for them. So it'll be an interesting riding to watch, and it'll be interesting who the Liberals and the Conservatives pick to run in that riding, but it could be more competitive than people think.
And were there any rumblings about Brock stepping down?
I don't think so. And I think in this particular case, we just have to accept what Larry Brock has said at face value. He was a lawyer before he was a member of Parliament. He's going to go back back to kind of work in the public legal space back in his home riding. So I think this is just one of those things where he's probably decided that, he loved being a lawyer and wanted to go back to practicing law.
And as you mentioned, he's the 7th MP to leave Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's caucus since the 2025 federal election. What kind of impact will this have on Poilievre's leadership?
Well, now he's got another by-election to deal with. And, in this particular case, what Pierre Poilievre has to hope for is that the Conservatives have a strong candidate and that they can hold on to this riding in Ontario. But, usually when you're the leader, it's good when people want to join your party or you've got people wanting to run. The flip side is also true when people decide that they want to pursue other opportunities. Basically, we've taken a riding that was a lock for the Conservatives under Larry Brock and should still be good for the Conservatives. But now the Liberals are going to have a chance to try to snatch another riding to try to build up a thin majority into something that is more of a working majority.
Okay, and speaking of leaders, the latest numbers show there's no contender to defeat Prime Minister Mark Carney. And in fact, a former Conservative Prime Minister was the closest contender in those numbers, even beating out Poilievre. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is a survey that we did with the CTV News, and we asked Canadians a pretty simple question. We had a great big long list. We asked Canadians which of the following individuals had a chance to defeat Liberal leader Mark Carney. The top response was none of the above at 33%, followed by Stephen Harper, former Conservative Prime Minister and leader at 16%, and Pierre Poilievre at 15%, followed by Premier Ford at 11%. Peter MacKay, came in at 9%. Actually, in Atlantic Canada, he was the top choice in Atlantic Canada at 20%. But 1 out of every 5 Atlantic Canadians believe that he would have a chance to beat Mark Carney. But, the long and the short of it right now is that, it seems that we're in a particular point in time, and things can change, where Canadians don't see a major challenger to Mark Carney. That can change, but today it's advantage Carney.
And were you surprised at all by these findings?
Of making...
Yeah, I thought, first of all, I thought all of the numbers would be higher because, you have to remember, so Harper's at 16, Pierre Poilievre's at 15, Ford's at 11. Think of it this way. The Conservatives are at about 28 or 29% support nationally, which means there isn't even someone that committed Conservative supporters believe can defeat Mark Carney. And I just speaks to an environment where since the last federal election, although many Canadians were very upset with the previous Liberal government and unhappy with the Liberals and don't like the last 10 years, Mark Carney has done well, and he's done well stacked up against Pierre Poilievre, especially on issues related to managing Donald Trump.
And this polling was done relatively recently, so could these results be a symptom of, it's summertime, people aren't necessarily thinking about this sort of thing at this time of year, or does this actually speak to something deeper?
I would say that if there were an election held today, the numbers would be very different because Pierre Poilievre would have kind of equitable coverage with Mark Carney, right? Because they would be the two frontrunners. And the fact of the matter is that Mark Carney has been dominating the airwaves and dominating the news. He's been crisscrossing the world. And it's just been difficult for Pierre Poilievre to kind of get profile because Mark Carney has been trying to build trade relationships and partnerships in order to kind of in response to Donald Trump. I think for Pierre Poilievre, he's got a hope to get back into the House of Commons as soon as possible because Pierre Poilievre is good in the House of Commons. He is an accomplished parliamentarian. He's very good in question period, and that's when he usually shines. So I'm sure Pierre Poilievre and his advisors cannot wait for the House to reconvene. On the flip side of the ledger, if you're a Liberal, you're probably thinking, maybe we don't want to sit very often because, we dominate we get to dominate the airwaves more. But Pierre Poilievre has got to look for opportunities to create more profile for himself and to kind of show that he is a prime minister in waiting compared to Mark Carney.
Okay, Nick, switching gears here. You just released some new polling on American alcohol. 3 in 4 Canadians saying they would not buy U.S. booze if it returned to shelves. What do you make of that?
Well, it's really interesting because President Trump has formally, I guess we say formally asked, if we count social media, formally asked for American alcohol to be put back on the shelves. A number of premiers have taken it off the shelves, not all, but most. And what we wanted to do in this survey that we did with CTV News was to say, okay, say it goes back on the shelves, what happens? Well, what's clear is that 3 out of every 4 Canadians said that they're not likely to one extent or another to buy U.S. alcohol, even if it was back on the shelves. So maybe the message on this particular front is basically something as simple as, yeah, well, you could put, U.S. booze back on the shelves. It doesn't mean Canadians are going to buy it. It's probably going to take a little longer for Canadians to feel more positive about purchasing U.S. alcohol.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for tonight. Thank you for your time, Nick.
Take it easy.
That was pollster Nick Nanos of Nanos Research. We'll take a short break now. Much more to come this evening. Stay with us. In the Lifeline tonight, researchers are now tracking whether a contagious catfish cancer in Quebec has spread to New Brunswick. CTV's Amanda Debison has more.
Researchers tracking contagious catfish cancer in Quebec say they're testing to see if it also spread to New Brunswick. University of Cambridge postdoctorate fellow Zoe Clark says she took samples of brown bullhead catfish with dark spots in lakes up and down the St. John River this past spring. Clark says she's expecting lab results within weeks that could determine if the catfish have the same transmissible cancer found in the same species in a lake straddling Quebec and Vermont. Scientists with the University of Vermont discovered brown bullhead catfish in Lake Memphremagog had melanoma. Stateside, the FDA has approved a new flu vaccine for older people. It's the first made with the same mRNA technology that was used during the COVID-19 pandemic. Moderna says it expects some supply to be available in certain stores soon. The shot is called Mfluziva and is for adults age 50 or older. It offers an additional option among the multiple flu vaccines available, including 3 specifically recommended for people age 65 or older who are especially vulnerable to influenza. Finally, in addition to helping people lose weight and improve blood sugar control, researchers are finding that GLP-1 medications may have direct protection for the heart. A new study from the UK of over 90,000 people with risk factors for heart disease found that those who took GLP-1 medications had fewer big heart problems, with up to 15% lower rates of heart attack, stroke, and death from heart disease. They also had fewer deaths overall and fewer non-fatal strokes and heart attacks compared to people who did not take the medication. Experts think these medications help by lowering weight, improving blood sugar, and reducing inflammation in the body, all of which can reduce heart disease risk factors. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for the Lifeline.
We're on the scene with a look at what's coming to theaters in August. A new month means a slew of new summer releases coming to the big screen. CNN's Rick Damigella has a preview.
I give to you our first electric patrol car.
The Super Troopers are back. Super Troopers 3 marks the first film in the series since 2018. The cop comedy speeds into theaters August 7th. A coming-of-age road trip also races into theaters with Nimrods. Fueled by the music of Green Day, the movie rocks theaters August 14th.
And namaste. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I'm Shanti. She looks like girl Jesus.
More travel-fueled comedy lands on screens in Spa Weekend. The Girls Trip flick hits cinemas August 21st.
Have you been horribly injured by a product made by the Acme Corporation?
It's not your fault. There's probably someone to blame. And August 28th marks the trial date for Coyote vs. Acme. Originally scheduled to release back in 2023, the movie was shelved by Warner Brothers Pictures and later picked up for release by Ketchup Entertainment. Preferring theaters with great air conditioning in Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
This is your opportunity.
Mornings with Aaron and Peter.
10 questions, 60 seconds. If you know all the answers, you're winning $1,000.
We play $1,000 Minute every weekday at 7 a.m.
On the markets, the Dow ended the day up 151 points. Meanwhile, the Canadian economy churned out a surprising 75,000 jobs in July, when most economists had expected about 15,000 jobs to be created. CNN Bloomberg's Marilla Fernandez has more.
The big number helped bring the unemployment rate down to 6.4%. The 75,000 jobs created were split between full and part-time work. The biggest gain made in the core age group, those between 24 and 54 years old. There were 52,000 more people working in Ontario in July and 18,000 in BC. Jobs in wholesale and retail trade made the biggest gains. To the other surprise number, 23,000 fewer people were working in the U.S. in July. Economists had expected about 100,000 jobs to be created. A big part of the loss was in government jobs, but because there were fewer people looking for work, the unemployment rate dropped to 4.1%. Shares of MDA Space took off today after the Canadian company reported earnings. Revenue was up 34% year over year, leading to a profit just short of $28 million for the quarter. MDA Space makes low Earth satellites and has benefited from government contracts to secure the Arctic. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 71.73 U.S. West Texas Intermediate is up to 78.18 U.S. a barrel. Western Canadian Select is up over $2 to 61.05. And the TSX closed in new record territory, up 244 points to 36,381. Those are your business headlines. I'm Marilla Fernandez.
Time for one final look at the forecast, and we'll go to Kaylin on the very humid weather deck.
I really have to buy some of those dress shirts that have the short sleeves because they would have come in real handy this week. It is hot and it is very humid out here in the north end of Halifax at the moment, as it is basically across the Maritime region. We got a beautiful viewer picture for tonight, though. This is a nice shot. This is coming in from the moon. This is taken after midnight because, remember, the moon isn't rising above the eastern horizon until after midnight right now. It's from Amanda McLean from Caribou Island in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. I want to thank Amanda very much for taking the time to share this just beautiful picture there. Caribou Island for tomorrow, high temperature near 26 degrees, but still feeling into the 30s with the humidex. And afternoon into evening, about a 40% chance of a shower or thunderstorm. Day planner for tomorrow around the Maritimes. Start of the day, it's going to be warm, muggy, and there'll be some fog patches around, especially near the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick and the Atlantic coastline, southwestern Atlantic coastline of Nova Scotia. And then moving it from the afternoon into the evening, that is when we are going to see some scattered showers with the risk of thunderstorms pop up around the Maritimes. A lot of the high temperatures tomorrow in the region will be down just a little bit compared to the last couple of days, but it's basically still hot and humid. Stephanie.
Thanks, Kaylin. Finally for us tonight, a ducky scene in Chicago as thousands of rubber ducks were dumped into the Chicago River for a good cause. The deluge of 90,000 rubber ducks poured out of a truck and into the river. They then bobbed along a stretch of the skyscraper-lined river in the annual Chicago Ducky Derby that raises thousands of dollars for Special Olympics. The ducks floated for about 15 minutes before a winner and runner-up were plucked from the water. The sponsor of the winning duck wins a new SUV. The competition raised nearly $500,000 for Special Olympics. And that will do it for us tonight. I'll be back here at 11:30 with your next newscast. But for local news anytime, you can visit our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. It's your home for news. We'll leave you with scenes from the Hackett's Cove area and the names of those who make our shows possible. Thanks for watching tonight and have a great weekend.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.